Welcome back to Pharmacy Review. Today, we're diving into the prescription regulations every Utah pharmacy must follow. Whether you're a pharmacist, technician, or student preparing for exams, knowing these requirements is essential for compliance and patient safety. In Utah, prescription handling is highly regulated to ensure accuracy, patient safety, and proper documentation. In this video, we'll cover required fields for valid prescriptions, faxed, electronic, and phone prescriptions, transferring prescriptions between pharmacies, packaging, repackaging, and labeling rules, counseling requirements for pharmacists, proper disposal and donation guidelines. Pharmacists play a crucial role in ensuring prescriptions are legal, appropriate, and safe for patient use. So, let's break down Utah's 2025 prescription regulations step by step. Disclaimer: this channel provides educational content on pharmacy law, summarized by artificial intelligence. While efforts are made to ensure accuracy, information presented here may not be comprehensive or up to date with the latest legal developments. This content is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Viewers should consult a licensed attorney or qualified professional for specific guidance related to pharmacy law and regulations. The creators of this channel are not liable for any actions taken based on the information provided. Always verify details with authoritative sources such as government regulations, professional organizations, or legal experts. Section 9. The prescription. Required fields. This portion will cover prescription orders, substitution guidelines, and refill limitations under Utah pharmacy law. These regulations are critical for maintaining the integrity of the prescription process and ensuring that patients receive the right medication in the safest, most effective way. We'll be covering everything from required elements of a valid prescription to what pharmacists can modify and how substitutions and refills are handled. Let's get started. What makes a prescription valid in Utah? To be considered legally valid, a prescription in Utah must include the following information, as required under Utah Code 58-17B-602. Prescriber's information: name, address, telephone number, DEA number if it's for a controlled substance, patient information, full name and address. For animals, the owner's name and animal species, date of issuance, drug information, name of the medication or device, dispensing instructions if necessary, usage directions and any refills or special labeling, signature, manual or electronic signature for written prescriptions, electronic signature for e-prescriptions. If printed from electronic media, the signature may be either electronic or manual. Without these elements, the prescription may not be filled. What can pharmacists change or add to a prescription? Pharmacists and pharmacy interns are allowed to make changes or additions to a prescription, but only after confirming with the prescriber. They may also document additional entries needed for compounding or dispensing, such as clarification of directions or quantities, provided those actions are in accordance with law. Support staff, such as pharmacy technicians or interns, may write down necessary additions related to processing, but cannot alter the prescriber's original intent. Generic substitution. What's allowed? Let's begin with generic substitution, a common practice that helps reduce drug costs without compromising efficacy. Under Utah Code 58-17B-605, a pharmacist or pharmacy intern may substitute a generic drug product equivalent for a brand name drug only if all of the following conditions are met. The purchaser specifically requests or consents to the substitution. The generic is of the same type and is listed as therapeutically equivalent in the FDA's Orange Book. The substituted drug is legally allowed to move in interstate commerce. The patient is counseled on the substitute, including use and expected effects. The prescriber has not prohibited substitution, either verbally or by writing. Dispense as written. The substitution is not otherwise prohibited by law. So, the takeaway: substitution is allowed, but only with proper consent, documentation, and equivalency confirmation. Substitution of biological products. Special considerations. Now, let's turn to biological products, including insulin analogs, monoclonal antibodies, and other specialty therapies. Biologicals follow a more specific path under Utah Code 58-17B-605.5, which defines what counts as an interchangeable biological product. It must be FDA licensed and meet interchangeability standards under 42 U.S.C. Sector 262K, or be considered therapeutically equivalent in the FDA's Orange Book supplement for biologics. Here's when substitution of a biological is permitted. The purchaser consents to the substitution. The substitute is FDA designated as interchangeable. The pharmacist counsels the patient about the substitution. The prescriber has not prohibited the substitution in writing or orally. It is legally permissible under state and federal law. How can a prescriber prohibit substitution? A prescriber may prevent substitution by writing "dispense as written" on the prescription, signing in a designated "dispense as written" area on the Rx pad, verbally instructing the pharmacist, which must be documented as orally by Dr. Smith, initials of pharmacist. In any of these cases, no substitution may occur, whether generic or biologic. Documentation and labeling requirements for biologics. If a substitution is made for a biological product, the pharmacist or intern must label the container with the name of the interchangeable biological product. Record both the prescribed product and the substituted product in the patient's file. Within 5 business days, the pharmacist or designee must notify the prescriber of the product dispensed by either updating an interoperable electronic medical record, using e-prescribing systems, communicating via fax, phone, or other means if no electronic system is used. Exceptions to this requirement. If there's no interchangeable product available, if the refill remains unchanged from prior fills, if the product was paid in cash. Out-of-state mail-order pharmacies. Pharmacies dispensing into Utah from out-of-state must also comply. If they substitute a biologic, they must notify the patient by phone or in writing. Follow all labeling and record-keeping requirements as if they were an in-state pharmacy. Legal protections for pharmacists. Pharmacists or pharmacy interns who make a lawful substitution of a biological product are not held to a higher liability standard than if they had dispensed the originally prescribed product. This protection is written directly into state law to encourage safe, lawful substitutions. Refill limitations and emergency refills. Let's talk about refills and when pharmacists can dispense more than the originally prescribed quantity. Under 58-17B-608.1, a pharmacist may dispense multiple refills at once for a legend drug if the drug is not a controlled substance. The prescriber hasn't included a notation like dispense quantity written. The total quantity does not exceed a 100-day supply. The pharmacist uses professional judgment. There's also a provision allowing early refill of ophthalmic liquids such as eye drops, once 70% of the medication should have been used, based on the prescriber's instructions. For emergency refills and special drug classes like insulin, see also 58-17B-608 and R156-17B-612B, which outline emergency dispensing requirements when prescriptions are exhausted or unavailable. Prescription pads, special requirements. Utah law does not specify any unique requirements for prescription pads, such as tamper-proof paper, beyond what's required federally for controlled substances. However, for prescriptions where substitution is an issue, the 2-line format, dispense as written versus substitution permitted, must be used if the prescriber wishes to prohibit substitution. Faxed prescriptions. Are there specific requirements for the fax machine? Let's begin with the basics. Does Utah specify technical requirements for the type of fax machine used?
No.
There are no explicit requirements outlined in Utah pharmacy law regarding the brand, model, or type of fax machine a pharmacy must use. However, standard best practices apply. The machine should be reliable, secure, and should produce a legible copy that can be retained in the pharmacy's records. Can a patient fax their own prescription? Here's an important compliance issue. Can a patient fax a prescription to the pharmacy themselves?
No.
According to our 156-17B-613, prescription orders that are electronically transmitted by the patient, including via fax, shall not be filled or dispensed by the pharmacy. This rule is in place to protect against forged prescriptions. unauthorized modifications. And to ensure that the prescription is coming directly from a licensed prescriber or their authorized agent. Only the prescriber or a designated individual within the prescriber's practice may legally transmit a faxed prescription to the pharmacy. Are faxed prescriptions allowed for controlled substances? Yes, Utah does allow faxing of controlled substance prescriptions, but with limitations based on federal and state law. Under Utah Code 58-37-2, the term prescribe includes issuing a prescription orally, in writing, by telephone, by fax, or by other electronic means. This means that faxed prescriptions are permitted for Schedules 2 through 5. However, you must still follow DEA and state-specific requirements for Schedule 2 controlled substances, such as written hard copy requirements unless the medication is for home infusion therapy, the patient is in a long-term care facility, the patient is in hospice care, and the provider notes hospice patient on the prescription. In all other cases, Schedule 2 prescriptions must be presented as hard copies, unless an exception applies or it is e-prescribed using a certified system. Electronic prescriptions. What are the basic requirements for e-prescriptions in Utah? Under Utah Administrative Rule R156-17B 613, pharmacies may accept electronic prescriptions for non-controlled substances only if the following conditions are met. The prescription must contain all the standard required information found in a valid prescription, including prescriber's name, address, and phone number. For controlled substances, the prescriber's DEA number and the patient's age. Patient's name and address, or animal owner and species, if applicable. Date of issuance. Drug name, strength, directions, refills, and any special instructions. The prescriber's electronic signature, or manual signature for printed versions. The electronic order must also include time and date of transmission. For faxes, the fax number of the sender. Name of the receiving pharmacy. It must be sent under the direct supervision of the prescribing practitioner or their authorized agent. These steps ensure traceability and validity while preventing fraud or miscommunication. Is special certification or technology required? Interestingly, Utah law does not currently specify any particular certification or technology standard that must be used to transmit electronic prescriptions, though federal DEA rules do govern e-prescribing for controlled substances. Most pharmacies and prescribers will use Certified Electronic Health Record (EHR) platforms or ERX systems that comply with federal security standards. Even if the state doesn't outline tech specs, best practice is always to use a DEA-certified platform when handling any e-prescription, especially for Schedules 2 through 5. Are controlled substances allowed via e-prescription? Yes. Utah allows Schedule 2 through 5 prescriptions to be transmitted electronically, consistent with federal regulations, specifically 21 CFR Part 1304.04, which governs the maintenance of prescription records. Pharmacies must ensure the prescriber uses a DEA-certified electronic prescribing system. Records are maintained for at least 5 years. Controlled prescriptions are accurately logged, labeled, and verified. Can pharmacists modify electronic prescriptions? Yes, but only with proper communication. Under Utah Code 58-17B-602, pharmacists or pharmacy interns may make changes or additions to an electronic prescription, but only after receiving permission from the prescriber. These changes may include adjusting directions, clarifying dosage form or quantity, completing required legal information for dispensing. Pharmacists may also document any additions or annotations needed to complete compounding or processing. As always, ensure all modifications are well documented and reflect the prescriber's intent. Can e-prescriptions cross state lines?
Yes.
Utah permits out-of-state prescriptions to be filled, including electronic prescriptions, under Utah Code 58-17B-609. The pharmacist must simply verify that the prescription is valid under the laws of the issuing state. The prescriber is appropriately licensed. This allows pharmacies to participate in multi-state prescription networks, especially with mail order or telemedicine prescriptions. Phone prescriptions. What information must be provided in a phone prescription? According to our 156-17B 613, prescription orders received by electronic means, including phone or voicemail, must include all standard prescription elements required under 58-17B-602, such as prescriber's name, address, and phone number. For controlled substances, DEA number and patient age. Patient's name and address or animal owner/species. Date of issuance. Medication name, directions, refills, and prescriber signature. Any special instructions or labeling requirements. The time and date of transmission. The intended receiving pharmacy. It must be communicated under the direct supervision of the prescriber or an authorized agent acting on specific instruction. Who can phone in a prescription? Here's where it gets a little nuanced. While Utah law does not explicitly list each professional title, it does clarify that an agent, such as a nurse or medical assistant, may communicate a prescription by phone only if acting under the specific direction of the prescribing practitioner. This applies to both controlled and non-controlled substances. That means medical receptionists or clerical staff may not transmit prescriptions unless they're explicitly designated and acting under direct instruction. The responsibility ultimately lies with the pharmacist or intern to verify the identity and authority of the caller. Can pharmacy interns receive phone prescriptions?
Yes.
Under our 156-17B 602 and our 156-17B 303A, a licensed pharmacy intern who is under the supervision of a pharmacist preceptor is allowed to receive new prescriptions via phone or voicemail, accept refills, provided they are properly authorized. This allows interns to practice real-world communication skills while maintaining accountability under pharmacist oversight. Can pharmacy technicians receive phone prescriptions?
No.
Pharmacy technicians and technician trainees are not authorized to receive new prescription orders via phone or voicemail. However, they may accept refill authorizations when communicated electronically by an authorized agent of the prescriber, not by phone. This distinction is laid out in our 156-17B 612, which separates roles based on how the information is transmitted and who is qualified to receive it. Can clerks or support staff receive phone prescriptions? Absolutely not. According to our 156-17B 607, supportive personnel, such as clerks, cashiers, and delivery drivers, are strictly prohibited from entering information into the patient's prescription profile, accepting any verbal prescription or refill authorizations. Their role is non-clinical, and any involvement in medication communication would be a serious compliance violation. Transfer prescriptions. Who can transfer a prescription? Let's start with the basics. Pharmacists, pharmacy interns, and dispensing medical practitioners, DMPs, can transfer prescriptions. Pharmacy technicians and technician trainees cannot transfer prescriptions. This is strictly prohibited. This ensures that only licensed or appropriately supervised individuals handle these sensitive transactions. What information must be recorded during a transfer? According to our 156-17B 612, Utah requires that very specific information be documented during every transfer by both the sending and receiving parties. For the transferring pharmacy, the pharmacist, intern, or DMP must void the original prescription either electronically or by manually writing void or transfer on the face of the original. For the receiving pharmacy, the pharmacist, intern, or DMP must record the original date of issuance and, if different, the original dispensing date, the original prescription number, the number of refills originally authorized, the number of valid refills remaining, the date of the last refill, if applicable, the name and address of the transferring pharmacy, the name of the individual who transferred the prescription, the name of the pharmacist, intern, or DMP receiving the transfer. This documentation ensures a clear audit trail and protects both patient safety and legal compliance. How many refills can be transferred? It depends on the drug classification and whether the pharmacies share a real-time, online database. For legend drugs and Schedule 3 through 5 controlled substances, refills may be transferred up to the maximum number authorized by the prescriber. Transfers can be repeated across pharmacies if the pharmacies share a real-time electronic system. The system documents the prescription ID, transfer status, receiving pharmacy, and timestamp. Note: Schedule 2 prescriptions cannot be transferred under federal law, even in Utah. Electronic transfers. What must be included? If the transfer is done electronically, the data system must log and communicate the fact that the prescription was transferred, the unique prescription ID number, the name of the receiving pharmacy, the date and time of the transfer. This is required under R156-17B 613 to ensure that digital prescription systems maintain integrity and traceability. Can a pharmacist refuse to transfer a prescription?
No.
Utah law is clear on this. A pharmacist, intern, or DMP may not refuse to transfer a prescription to another authorized professional acting on behalf of a patient. This rule ensures that patients always retain their right to access and continuity of care, even if they switch providers. Are there special rules for out-of-state transfers? Currently, Utah law does not specify unique rules for out-of-state transfers, but best practice is to verify the license of the out-of-state prescriber or pharmacist. Ensure the prescription is valid under the laws of that state. Document all transfer details thoroughly.
Packaging.
Prescription labeling. What's required? When a pharmacist, pharmacy intern, or dispensing medical practitioner, DMP, fills a prescription in Utah, the label must include all of the following elements as outlined in Utah Code 58-17B-602. Pharmacy information. Name, address, and telephone number of the pharmacy. Prescription information. The prescription number, serial number assigned by the pharmacy. The date of dispensing, or the original fill date. Patient information. Full name of the patient. For animal prescriptions, the owner's name and species of the animal. Prescriber information. Full name of the prescribing practitioner. Directions for use. As written by the prescriber, plus any cautionary statements, e.g., may cause drowsiness. Take with food. Drug information. The trade name, generic name, or chemical name. Strength and amount dispensed. If the product contains multiple active ingredients, the proprietary or non-proprietary name of the combination can be listed. Beyond use date, BUD. This is the date beyond which the medication should not be used by the patient. Each of these data elements ensures the patient receives the correct medication, understands how to use it, and knows when it should be discarded. What is a beyond use date, BUD? Utah defines the beyond use date as a time determined by the dispensing pharmacist, which is placed on the prescription label to indicate the date after which the medication is not recommended for use. This is especially important for compounded medications, repackaged items, drugs with short shelf lives after opening or reconstitution. The beyond use date may differ from the manufacturer's expiration date and should be based on USP guidelines and the pharmacist's professional judgment. OTC products and labeling. While the focus of this rule is on prescription drugs, over-the-counter, OTC, medications sold in the pharmacy must still meet FDA labeling requirements. This includes drug facts panel, active and inactive ingredients, dosage instructions, warnings and contraindications, storage instructions. These requirements fall under federal law, but failure to ensure properly labeled OTCs in the pharmacy setting may still lead to disciplinary action at the state level. Child safety cap requirements. While not specifically detailed in the Utah State Code in this section, pharmacies must comply with the Federal Poison Prevention Packaging Act, PPPA, which requires that most oral prescription drugs be dispensed in child-resistant containers unless the prescriber requests a non-child-resistant container for a specific prescription, or the patient provides a blanket waiver. Failure to comply with this requirement can result in serious liability if a child accesses medication unintentionally.
Counseling.
When is counseling required? Under Utah Code 58-17B-613, pharmacists and pharmacy interns must offer and provide counseling in the following situations. 1. In-person dispensing. If the patient or their agent delivers the prescription in person or picks it up in person at the pharmacy, the pharmacy must verbally offer to counsel the patient or agent. The counseling must be conducted face-to-face, unless declined. 2. Remote dispensing. If the prescription is received by mail, phone, fax, or electronically and the medication is shipped or delivered, counseling is still required. The pharmacy must provide counseling through alternative means, e.g., phone. Include a toll-free number that connects the patient to a pharmacist or intern. This ensures every patient has access to counseling, regardless of how they receive their medication. Special populations, corrections facilities. There are unique rules for patients under the care of the Utah Department of Corrections or housed in county detention facilities. Counseling can be delivered via written, telephone, or electronic communication. This is a practical adaptation for secure environments while still maintaining patient access to essential drug information. What topics should counseling cover? According to our 156-17B, 610, the content of counseling should be guided by the professional judgment of the pharmacist, intern, or DMP. Here's what may be included. Drug identification. Name and description of the prescription drug. Dosage and administration. Dosage form, dose, route of administration, and duration of therapy. Purpose and expected outcome. Intended use and expected action. Special directions and precautions. Preparation, administration, or use instructions specific to the patient. Side effects and interactions. Common or severe adverse effects. Drug-drug or drug-food interactions. How to avoid them and what to do if they occur. Monitoring techniques. How the patient can monitor their response to therapy. Storage instructions. Proper storage to preserve efficacy and safety. Refill information. Whether and when a prescription can be refilled. Missed dose protocol. What to do if the patient forgets a dose. Other relevant information. Pharmacist comments, custom patient guidance, and drug-specific tips. Beyond use date. The date after which the drug should not be used. Counseling must be personalized, not just read from a script. It should be tailored to the individual patient's situation, drug therapy, and concerns. What if the patient declines counseling? Patients have the right to refuse counseling. If they do, this should be documented in the pharmacy's records. The offer to counsel must still be made clearly and respectfully. Documentation protects both the pharmacy and the patient's autonomy. Disposal and donation. Disposal of prescription drugs. The basics. Let's begin with the disposal of medications. Under Utah Code 58-17B-623, pharmacies are allowed to accept unused prescription drugs for disposal, but they must do so in accordance with administrative rules set by the Division of Occupational and Professional Licensing, DOPL. Most pharmacy disposal practices also follow federal DEA guidelines, which include maintaining secure disposal bins or drug take-back receptacles, complying with controlled substance handling procedures, participating in DEA drug take-back day events. These programs help reduce drug diversion, misuse, and environmental harm. Disposal by patients. Patients themselves are encouraged to dispose of unused medications safely, either at a participating pharmacy, through DEA-authorized take-back programs, or by following FDA-recommended disposal steps, e.g., mixing with unpalatable substances before discarding. Pharmacies may offer disposal services, but this must align with state-approved protocols to avoid regulatory violations. Donation. Charitable Prescription Drug Recycling Program. Utah is one of several states that allows for the donation and reuse of eligible prescription drugs through the Charitable Prescription Drug Recycling Program. Here's how it works. Eligible donors, such as patients, healthcare facilities, or physicians' offices, may transfer eligible prescription drugs to an eligible pharmacy for dispensing to medically indigent individuals, or to a physician's office, if that office is part of the program. The division, in consultation with the Board of Pharmacy, is responsible for creating rules and policies for the program, ensuring proper safety and compliance measures, providing support to interested facilities. What prescription drugs can be donated or redistributed? Under Utah law, a pharmacy may accept or redistribute an unused drug only if all of the following conditions are met. The drug is in a unit dose package or manufacturer's sealed container, or an injectable medication. The drug is unopened, or a cancer medication in an unopened single dose removed from a multi-dose package. The drug is accepted and dispensed before its expiration or beyond use date. The drug is not adulterated or mislabeled, and the pharmacist or technician has no reason to suspect contamination or tampering. If these criteria are met, the drug may be legally redistributed to a qualified patient in need. Can prescriptions be returned and reused? Yes, under limited, controlled conditions. A pharmacist may accept and redistribute a previously dispensed medication only if the following are true. The drug was dispensed to a patient in a nursing care facility, intermediate care facility for individuals with disabilities, state prison or jail, state hospital. The drug was stored under licensed health provider supervision, remains in unit dose or sealed packaging, is returned to the original pharmacy that dispensed it, was initially dispensed by a licensed pharmacist or intern, is returned in compliance with FDA and DEA regulations. This exception helps reduce waste while maintaining strict safety standards. Thanks for watching Pharmacy Review. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all things pharmacy. Got questions or suggestions? Drop them in the comments below. Until next time, take care and keep thriving in your pharmacy journey.